this is for a new show called The Dick Van Dyke Show. I said, what's a Dick Van Dyke?
Our show, we tried to be timeless and just be about the American family.
I went a couple of months ago to do a comic book convention, and there were as many people there dressed like Bo Duke as were dressed like Superman.
After 5 years of playing that girl, I had become that woman.
I didn't want to play Lando as a black man. I wanted to play him because he was like this guy out in space somewhere.
Mary was the most unbelievable star I'd ever worked with.
The navel. Want to know about the navel?
Whatever you ask me, I'll tell you the truth.
Yeah, you know what? If I tell you, people think I'm an idiot.
Okay, so for those of you who are having trouble calling in to the show, it's very easy. You don't have to turn on your Skype or your FaceTime. You go on your phone or on your computer to askthemyourself.com. Very simple, www.askthemyourself.com. And you should come up with a screen that looks a little bit like this, and you'll see the current show, whatever that is at this point. And then you'll see a bunch of buttons here on the top, and that's the most important thing. So, if you are someone who's watched the show before and you're a patron, then you can log in right away. If you want to become a patron and help support the show and get your call taken that much quicker, then you can click on Become a Patron. If you want to just watch without calling in, just click Watch Without Calling In. If you want to set up your camera, you can go to our tutorial page, and you will see that you will get to tutorials. But let's assume for the moment that you're a new caller, and we're going to click, and that will bring you to this. And what you want to do is you want to click on, type in your new account, set up a password, and then sign in. Now your password, by the way, when you sign in, should have a capital letter, a small letter, numbers, and a symbol, and it should probably be about no less than 8. So remember, a capital letter, a small letter, some numbers, and a symbol, and it should be about 8 digits in your password. Then, very simple, click agree and sign in. If you're a Patreon subscriber, click Patreon subscriber. If you're not, you can say what you want to ask. Say, want to ask, well, you don't want to say that. You want to say, what's your name? Or whatever it is. Whatever you want to ask. What school did you go to? Then you click, enter your Skype name and your FaceTime name. And then you want to type your name and where you are so that we know where you are. You will type your Skype name and your FaceTime if you're a Skype or whatever. Then you can take a snapshot of yourself. And if you want to, you can actually tweet out and say that you're going to be on the show. Or you can send a note to your friends at Facebook and say that you're going to be on the show. And then that's it. Then just watch the show right here. The show will be there, and you can watch it while you're waiting to be brought on. At a certain point, you will come on the show. Now, be patient. Don't just go straight to the having problems, because once you're logged in, you will see that you're officially backstage and that someone will be calling you. So please, by all means, do not click having problems unless you're not backstage. But if you are backstage, that means that we're going to be calling you. So please be patient. We will take your FaceTime call or Skype call in the order that we get them. So just be waiting for that. And that's it. It's really very simple. I hope if you have any problems, email me, and next time we'll get you taken care of. Okay? Okay.
Hi, welcome to Pop Goes the Culture, Thanks for calling in. While you're waiting to be brought on the air, set up your computer or your phone or tablet properly to get the best possible picture and sound. We want you to look your best. You're going to be on TV. First, find a quiet spot with not a lot of noise, preferably away from the kids, pets, and traffic. If you have a headset, that will give you the best sound. If you're on your computer camera, don't lean in. Sit back and relax so that you're framed the same way you see people on TV, head and shoulders. You might even want to raise your computer up so that it's level with your face. Put it on a box or a book and make sure it's stable. If you're using a cell phone, see if you can get a simple cell phone tripod. They're easy to set up. If you don't have a tripod, no worries. Set the camera for selfies. Hold the phone about arm's distance from your face. Make sure it's landscape or horizontal, not portrait or vertical. Try to keep the camera level, not too high, not too low. Make sure you can see your whole face and maybe shoulders in the frame. Next, find a nice light in front of you. Never sit in front of a bright window or light source. Turn around until you find the best light and background and the shot is looking attractive. This is a good shot. This one, not so much. Don't put your head too high or too low in the shot. Your eyes should be about 1/3 down from the top of the frame. Okay, now you're looking and sounding your best, and you're ready for your close-up. Keep watching, and maybe we'll be bringing you on the show soon.
Tonight on Pop Goes the Culture, you're the talk show host. You have a chance to talk to our guest face to face, live. This is Ask Them Yourself. He's an actor, singer, producer, and director. You've seen him in countless movies and TV series, including Star Trek Voyager, The Great Buck Howard, and Glee. These days, he's getting rave reviews and standing ovations, touring the country with his band, singing swing and popular standards. But he's best known as Ralph Malph from the classic hit TV show Happy Days. Tonight, your guest is Don Most. Get ready. For the next hour, Don is here to take your questions. It's time to ask them yourself. And welcome to Ask Them Yourself. I'm your host, David Levin, and we are here live, and I'm really happy because today we have one of my favorites going back to when I was a teenager. When Happy Days was on the air, I was a teen, and I was definitely in high school, and I was definitely watching the show, and this gentleman played Ralph Malph, and I am, of course, talking to Don Most. Don, thanks for coming on the show.
Great to be with you, David, and wish we could do it in person, but this is almost as good.
This is new. I mean, this is not something that people are doing a whole lot of, but it's definitely fun.
It's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And you're good.
There we are talking like, we always do, but there could be millions watching. Potentially.
I think there are millions. I think there are millions watching right now. I think the ratings are very high right now. I can say not maybe the ratings that you guys got on Happy Days, but
a close second.
Oh, sure. So how are you? What have you been doing these days? What have you been up to?
Oh, well, as you alluded to, I've been doing a lot of the singing. The great standards and swing and big band kind of music, which I always loved and actually started out doing before I was acting. I was performed in the Catskill Mountains with a nightclub kind of a show, and I was 15. And one summer, I won't say the year, but the summer, I was 15, and boy, it was. I thought I'd made it, the Catskills. But I switched focus to acting shortly after that, and then one thing led to another. I was living in New York and then going to school in Pennsylvania, but then moved out to California, and then the acting thing really took over. But I knew one day I'd want to come back to do the music, and the timing just seemed right about 5 years ago, and I've been having a blast doing that, at theaters and clubs and casinos, or wherever that music, people love to hear that kind of music. But so I was in New York recently at the Cutting Room doing a show, and at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut, and,
Mm-hmm.
down in Orlando. I think you have footage of me when I performed with the Orlando Jazz Orchestra.
Yeah, we'll show
at
some of that a little later.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's going great. And I did a CD called Mostly Swinging.
Uh-huh.
And it's just a great, unbelievable group of LA jazz musicians, big band, and and it swings. But I certainly am not giving up acting. I've been doing some really exciting things in that vein lately. And then, as you know, I've directed in the past, and I have several projects that I'm actively shopping right now and starting to get some real traction on, and I'm excited about doing that and getting behind the camera again.
So Don, we have some folks who would love to talk to you since they're the talk show host today. We have our first guest on if he's all set. So let's bring on Larry, who would love to say hello. Say hi to Don Most.
Hey,
Hey, Larry.
to see you.
Nice to meet you, Larry. Thanks for calling in.
Does everyone who sees you feel like you're an old friend? Like, we've never met, but we've spent so many hours together.
I do get that reaction from people. It's not that uncommon. I guess because we were in people's living rooms so frequently, and especially maybe at certain stages of your life where it had impact, and then because we were in reruns, even in syndication, even when we were still in prime time. So I think just that we were with you so much that. I don't know. I get that a lot, where people feel like we're old friends from school, something like that. Where are you from?
What I really wanted to ask you though was about the music, if you would.
Sure.
How did you get into swing, and how did it all come about? Because we're not too dissimilar in age, and I grew up in a household of '60s rock and
right.
psychedelia, and
right.
It's just so pleasurable. And to watch the videos of you singing, and I look forward to having you come by here in our town, and we'll come see you. But how'd you get into it?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, I know you're talking about, because I grew up in the era. When I was a teenager, it was the '60s going into the into the '70s, and yes, the music was changing so radically. Great music. I mean, I was a fan and still a great fan of that period of music we call classic rock and all that. But before that, when I was young, when I was like 9, I saw a movie called The Jolson Story, about a biopic about the great Al Jolson. I was 9 years old, but that his character, his sound, his singing, his story, it really captured me and had a very strong impact at that age. And I kind of knew I just felt like, this was for me. And I kind of kept it secret. But then by about 13, when I was 13, I couldn't hide my desire. And my parents, as long as it didn't interfere with schooling and everything, they were supportive. And I started going to a school in Manhattan, because I grew up in Brooklyn, and started taking classes for singing and acting and dancing. And I just loved that music. The Jolson introduced me to that, the songs from the 20s and the 30s, the great American songbook, if you will. And then one thing led to another, and I started listening to radio stations in New York where they played that kind of music. And I was sort of looked on by my friends as, what are you listening to? You're into Sinatra, and this is back in the '60s, or you're into Nat King Cole and Bobby Darin. I was a huge fan, but not of his rock, of when he was doing the great jazz standards. And people thought I was a little strange of my age, but I also did love all kinds of music. But in my blood, and what I got hooked on performing and all these years, I've always listened to jazz and blues and the standards with that kind of a bent, that kind of a style.
Well, it's great stuff. It's so nice to be able to listen to you in this context. It's fabulous.
Well, and where are you from? Where do you live?
I live in upstate New York, so I ought to be able
Oh.
to make it over to Mohegan Sun or one of those places.
Yeah, I was there just about 3 weeks ago, something like that. It's a really great venue there, the hotel and casino. It's really nice.
When are you coming out again, Don?
It's kind of in the planning stage. I have a lot of dates that are coming up in the spring and into the summer, but right now, it's all kind of in flux. But I'll post about it on Facebook, and then on my website, hopefully I'll remember to update that at donniemos.com in my calendar.
Larry, thanks for coming on the show today. Thanks for saying hi.
My pleasure. Thanks for setting this up and giving us the opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Larry. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so this is a very cool way for you to interact with your fans, and we're going to take so we have a game that we play while we're setting up our next caller. So I'm going to bring up a picture on the screen, and tell me a story. You ready?
All right, I might have to do that. Let me see it.
All right, hold on. Here we go. Tell me a story.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, we could be on for the entire hour at least talking about Robin Williams, who pretty much got his career launched as pretty apparent on a guest spot he did for Happy Days, where he played Mork from Mork.
Right.
And nobody knew who Robin Williams was then, and the story about that was that there was an episode that, when the cast and the writers and producers, we sit around a table on Mondays and would read the new episode that we would shoot later that week.
Mm-hmm.
It was apparent that script, the first time we read it, it was in trouble. There were a lot of problems with it, and everyone thought, God, this is really kind of weak, and I don't see how this is going to.
Wasn't it Gary Marshall's son who wanted to see a spaceman? Yeah,
because they had just seen Star Wars and one of those movies, and so Scotty Marshall, and I don't know, he might have been 10 at the time, said to his dad, "Oh, you should do a show with something to do with a spaceman," and so that was the origin of how this came about. But the script was in bad shape, and there were certain actors they wanted, and the actors turned it down, and then they finally had somebody. But then I think midway through the week he quit because he didn't think he could make it work, and it was like the last minute. It might have been Ronnie Hallen, who was one of Gary's sisters.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been Al Molinaro. I can't remember, but somebody had seen Robin at the Comedy Store in L.A., and they said, "We know a guy who would be great for this."
What did you think when you walked in, when this guy walks in? It's like you're all sitting around going, "Oh my God, this is going to be the worst show we ever had," and then this man walks in and sticks his head on the curtain. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Well, from my perspective, what happened was I didn't. It was a Thursday, the day before we were going to shoot, and they brought him in on a Thursday. It was camera blocking day. It was very late in the game. And I didn't have to be there till about an hour or two after, like Ron and Henry, and I think Anson were there, because my first scene was a little later. But I walked into the soundstage, and there was this palpable electricity in there that I felt immediately, and it was the strangest thing. And then people were coming up to me and going, "Where do you see this guy? Where do you see Robin?" And I walked in over to the set, and I saw him doing his thing, and it was like, this guy is from another planet. Who is this guy? And everyone was just like amazed, because I think he had in his comedy act, he did things where he was, he did use sound effects, and he had done something that fit this perfectly.
Right.
And then the way his mind worked, which was like, on another frequency, he was coming up with things and adding stuff that wasn't in the script, and the rest is history.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We have another caller, and so I'm going to bring in Alice. And Alice, say hi to Don Most.
Hi, Don. How
Hi, Alice.
exciting to see you. This is
Oh,
wonderful.
thank you. Thank you so much, Phil. Yes.
I wanted to ask you, why did you leave the show? You were so cute, and every time I saw you, you made me smile, and then you were gone.
Yeah, it's a long story, but thank you for that. I appreciate the compliment very much. There were multiple reasons. I probably uppermost in my mind was, when I set out to do acting, I wasn't even particularly looking necessarily to do comedy. I was really more interested probably in drama. The first few parts that I got when I got to LA were dramatic roles. And that's kind of where my focus was and my real desire. But I knew, I felt I could do comedy if the material was good. And then when it came along, and I did this. I did 7 seasons, and I knew that I was getting, back then, if you were on a TV show, it was very difficult to go from television to film, and I wanted to do it all. And not like today. Today, there's almost like a bridge between the mediums. If you're doing, people who are doing movies, now all of a sudden you see them doing TV shows, and people who are doing TV shows are doing movies, but it wasn't like that back then. It was almost impossible. And I knew I was getting more and more associated with this role, and this very specific role and style. And so that was, I was feeling worried about that, of being typecast. And then also, honestly, I felt that material wasn't up to the level that those first 4 or 5 years the show was growing and creatively being vibrant and moving. And then I felt it sort of stagnated and kind of plateaued and was maybe even going downhill. So that was another reason. And, I was about 27, and I just felt 7 years I was doing the same character, and I wanted to stretch out and move on, and the truth is, and I didn't talk about this a lot back then, but this is an interesting thing. And Alice, I'm glad you brought it up. I was now being offered a very substantial raise to come back because my contract was up. And so they now wanted me to come stay, and they offered me by far the biggest raise I had been offered. And I said to my agents, here's what I want to do. Tell them I don't even want the raise. I'll do the show. I'll come back for the same money without the raise, but give me an opportunity to do some other things. So ABC guarantee me a TV movie of the week, or Paramount Studios, where we were shooting it, give me a supporting role in a film, and then I will come back and do the show for the same money without and keep the raise. And they wouldn't agree to do that.
Wow.
So that kind of made up my mind,
I see. Well, but sorry. What did you do after that?
Well, it was a bit of a, I was doing theater. I wanted to do theater and film, and it was very tough, as I mentioned. I went 6 months without even being able to audition for a movie because of being so associated with the role. So it was tough, but I did a lot of theater. Then I slowly said to my agent, because I told him I didn't even want to do television for a while. I wanted a break from it. But then I said, okay, I'll, after a while, I was hitting a wall for film. So I started doing TV again and doing a lot of guest spots on various shows, and then just kept doing that. And then got some films, but it was still tough until later on, where I started getting more work in films and independent movies, as opposed to studio films. And that's where I really enjoyed doing independent films a lot. And then, eventually I did things like I had a recurring role on Glee and did a lot of other shows and theater. And then I started directing, and I've directed 3 independent films now. So, managed to juggle some different things.
Well, good to see you, and thank you for sharing.
Thanks for calling in, Alice.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Thanks for coming on. Whoa! I pushed you in and out. Oh boy, this is awesome. So we love the people who are calling in. We have some people who are doing live chat with us on YouTube. And we got a couple people say that they're trying to call in and they weren't able to get through. So to the people who are watching who are trying to get through, I apologize. But you know, we listen. It's new technology. Keep trying, and we are gonna continue. Okay, so let's try another. Did you like doing the tell a story, the picture? I got another picture for you.
Yeah, it certainly brought back memories and stirred up a lot of things inside to talk about.
Whoops,
absolutely.
That's not the picture. Here we go. There you go. There's the picture.
Yeah, that's.
So tell me that story.
Yeah, well, if people look in the third guy from the left with the sunglasses, if you look closely, you probably recognize
the coolest guy in the shot, I think.
The coolest guy in the world at the time. The coolest guy in the world is John Lennon and Jillian, his son, who was like 9. That was crazy. It was the first season, 1974, probably like around February, I'm guessing. And because it was, I think, the 6th show that we shot. And I remember because it was the drag race show. And the guy on the far right was the guest actor who played, I think the character's name was Skizzy. I can't remember his name. Might have been Alan something. But, it was a show where he challenged me to a drag race, and then Fonzie wound up racing him. But more to the point, we're rehearsing a scene in Arnold's, and Anson Williams in the center, played Potsy, of course, went to get a cup of coffee by... it was near the entrance to the soundstage, and he comes back and he goes, "The craziest thing, there's a guy there who looks just like John Lennon." And I remember I said, "Yeah, right." We're laughing like John Lennon's coming to see us, And then a few minutes later, we see a guy walk up, and he gets a little closer, and he's just standing back, very with no with total humility and very just so low key and reserved, and we realized, we go, "Oh my gosh, that's John Lennon," and we were like astounded. And he wound up staying with Jillian for like, I don't know, several hours, and it was so humble and gentle and warm and talked to all of us. And then while we were rehearsing, he was watching and talking to the crew and everything. It was surreal. I couldn't, I thought I was dreaming. It was I was out in California, maybe, 6 months at this point, 7 months. And I'm going, what is happening here? What's going on?
Well, Happy Days was a huge, not at first, not a huge hit at first, but it started.
We were a minor hit, that first year. I mean, we cracked the top 20, but we didn't become huge until the 3rd season.
What do you think changed?
Well, the biggest thing, probably, there were 2 things that really changed it. A lot of the shows at the time, the comedy shows that were the hot ones, were the ones shot in front of a live audience, like All in the Family and Maude and Good Times. And we were not. We were a one-camera show, like they do it like a movie. And Jerry Paris, our brilliant director, who had directed the old Dick Van Dyke shows, and that was done 3-camera, more with like an audience type show.
Right.
And he said, "I think we should change this to that format." And a lot of the people were saying, "No, I mean, it's about the 50s, and you're going to lose, you won't have those scenes outdoors at Arnold's with the drive-in and the cars.
Right.
And you're going to lose the feel of that American Graffiti kind of feel of the 50s. But Jerry said, "I think you've got a perfect cast here to do it," because, Tom Bosley had won a Tony on Broadway for Fiorello. Marion had a lot of theater background. Henry Winkler had a big theater background. Anson and I had that as well. The one person who didn't, and who was really nervous the first day of shooting, was Ron Howard, because he had never done like live theater. But Jerry persevered, and they decided to try it. And the other big thing was that they moved the character, Henry's character Fonzie, more into the forefront, and had him move to the upstairs, garage apartment of the Cunninghams. So he became instead of a peripheral character, he became much more of a central one. And then his character was getting so popular, and then those two elements, the being in front of an audience, was changed the energy. It was a more heightened kind of energy that you have when you're doing. It's kind of like doing a live show, theater. So that's what seemed to be, and then also Gary Marshall became more involved. He's our creator and exec producer, but The Odd Couple was his show, and that had finally come to an end. So he was more involved with ours and brought in some of those writers, some great writers, and it just sort of went to a different place, and that's when we really took off. Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask some of the questions that are here in our live chat. I don't normally do this, but by the way, askthemyourself.com. Just try to sign in, set up an account. It's really easy, because we really would love to have you talk face to face with Don. However, somebody said, okay, Big Tom wants to know who thought up the wah 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 phrase.
I wish I knew. I have no idea which writer, whether that was Gary or one of the writers. I'll have to try to find out, because now you got me curious. I have no idea.
I'm looking at some of the others. Somebody said, hold on, it's hard to get some of these to come up. If you're asking questions online, by the way, on the live chat, please continue to ask those questions. But again, www.askthemyourself.com. We would love to have you talk face to face to Don. I think he's enjoying talking to you guys. So that's a big part of the show. You guys are the talk show hosts. I want to get out of the way. I hate working this hard.
Sorry, David.
I know. I like to take the time off. Let somebody else ask the questions for a change.
We could just talk.
Oh, which I love doing. Let's talk a little bit about the jazz stuff now. And the swing stuff. Starting, it's almost like chapter 2 for you, I guess. Maybe it's chapter 3, but I mean, starting over and doing something that people don't know you for. How difficult was that to sort of make that transition into the singing?
Yeah, I started off going, okay, I'm going to put a show together because I just felt it deep inside. I needed to do this, and if I was ever going to do it, I needed to address it now, which was 4 or 5 years ago. It was now, right. And I said, I'm going to see how it goes, and then if I'm enjoying it now, maybe I'll continue. I didn't put the expectations up too high, and just wanted to see if I would enjoy it and how people would respond, because it had been so long since I had done anything like that.
Right.
And with the technology today, I was able to do things I never was able to do before on my computer in terms of exploring the music and recording on my computer at home and trying different material. And that really elevated, it got me back in shape, the voice, and getting to that level you need to be, so that when I did my very first show, it was a club in LA called Vitello's, and the people responded to it. It was great response, and I had a blast. So we said, okay, well, got to keep doing it. But the most difficult part that you sort of alluded to is that people don't know me for that.
Right.
So it's like once people were in the room, it's great, because then it's just the music speaks for itself. And with the great musicians and the arrangements that I'm very particular about, making sure I have the right kind of arrangements for this kind of music. And then I just get on a wave and go, and it's in my blood. So it's not like, oh, I'm trying some novelty. I mean, this was what I did first. So then it works great. But getting people in, getting people to come for some of the, say, bigger venues, that was to get booked in bigger venues and in a bigger spotlight. It was a bit of a challenge because the buyers are not sure that people are going to want to come because they don't know me for that. They don't know me for that. So that was a challenge, and it's getting better because it's starting to get out there more and more of what I'm doing, and the CD and some of my and live appearances around. So it's getting better in that regard, but I still feel like I have to get past that further. It's not done yet. It's not a done deal by any means. But a lot of these things are adding up. And one thing that I did, which I think will help to some degree, is I did this. I got asked to do a new kind of award show called the Carney Awards, named after the great Art Carney.
Right.
This is going to be their 4th year of doing the event, and the Jim Katz and his brother David Katz, they started this, and Jim had seen what I was doing with music, and they wanted to add music this year, and he asked me would I come on with my band and be the sort of provide the music for the show. So I did, and the Carney Awards honors all like the great character actors, the ones where maybe you say, oh, I know that face, but I don't know their names.
I think this is a picture from the red carpet from that day. You can see some of the people who are being honored. They
honored this year James Cromwell and Jessica Walter, Bruce Greenwood, Joe Morton, and Joey Pantoliano, who wasn't there, but they had video of him. That's amazing. That's Brian Carney in the middle. That's Art Carney's son, who was one of the exec producers, and so he was there. What a great man, nice man he is. And so it was really cool doing the show. I got to sing the opening number for the show, the In Memoriam segment, where I did one for my baby, and several other songs. And it's going to be on in New York. It's going to be on Channel 11 on Saturday night, I think, during the Honeymooners Marathon in honor of Art Carney, obviously. Right. And I think it's also going to be on a cable station called Decades TV.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that I want to do more and more, so that it'll get it out there what I'm doing. But by no means do I want to have that get in the way of acting and directing, and there's been a lot of activity in the acting front as of late, whiwhich is exciting.
Awesome. Which is awesome. Listen, that's what we live for, right? We live for doing our art, and for you, the music has been part of your soul. Look, I remember just Truth in Advertising here. Don and I know each other outside of this, and I remember being in your car once, and you put on some Tony Bennett, and this had to be 8 or 9 years ago, and you were like, I love this stuff.
Oh yeah, I've always loved it, and always will. So yeah, I'm real happy to be doing it, and maybe a friend of mine who's has a music background, but he and I are talking about some projects together on the film side, and he's talked to me about this one project, an idea that would combine the acting and the music for me, and
that would be awesome.
So that would be really cool. So we're talking about figuring out how to develop that project.
I'd like to show a little of your music, if you don't mind.
Right. Absolutely.
Now YouTube gets a little hairy when you play music, and so we'll put the music on the live version, and if they cut off part of it or something like that, we will take it out for the replay. But we will also put a link so that people can go and see it, so that they're going to get to see it. But we're going to take a minute and just take a look and listen to the music of Don Most.
All right, cool.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Donnie Most. What a day this has been. What a rare mood I'm in. Why, it's almost like being alive. was falling. I could swear I was falling. Why, it's almost like me. Every day I have the blues. Every day I have the blues. If you see me worried, baby, 'cause it's you I hate to lose. I've got you under my skin. I have got you deep in the heart of me. So deep in my heart that you're really a part. I've got you under my skin. And now my feet bend just like a sailor. Could it be our boy's done something right? I've been around the world in a plane, settled revolutions in Spain. The North Pole I've charted, but I can't get started with you. As the start of the blues, and from a jail there came a wail from a downhearted frail, and they played that as the start of the blues. I'm wild again, beguiled again. She might laugh, and I love it, although the laughs I'm gonna pack my suitcase, move on down the line. I'm gonna pack my suitcase, move on down the line. Well, there ain't nobody worrying and there ain't nobody crying. Now that Maggie's back in town. Look out, old Mackie is back.
Hey. All right. Thanks for playing that, David. I can't hear you.
I have
David.
heard. There we go. How's that?
There you go.
I have seen you play in person, and I mean the video captures are great, but being in the room with you is so dynamic. I didn't know what to expect, honestly. I mean, I had never really heard you sing before, but I thought, okay, I'm gonna go see Don. He's a friend of mine. I came out of there and I was bopping and I was smiling, just like I was saying. I'm sitting here watching it on the, and it's just, it's awesome stuff, Don. I mean, you look so happy up there.
Yeah, I am happy up there. I really am. When it's amazing the high I get when that this kind of music, like those kind of musicians, and I think I said earlier, I almost feel like I just get on a wave, but it takes me up to the ceiling. I mean, I feel like I'm flying. It's just a great feeling.
Have you gotten to meet any of your idols? Some of them are a couple of them are alive, not a lot. Have you met Tony Bennett or any of those guys?
I never got to meet Tony. I was a major Bobby Darin fan, major. I saw Bobby at the Copacabana nightclub in New York when I was 18, twice, and at Central Park once, and I did get to meet him. It was during that Central Park concert. I got there early, and he had just finished his sound check, and I saw him walking on a path, and I just had to go up to him and talk to him. I was probably about 19 at the time. I hadn't gone to LA yet. So I came real close to meeting Frank Sinatra at his golf event in Palm Springs. I was invited to that, and I was about 15 feet away from him at the party, but I didn't have the nerve to go over and say anything to him. So I just like stood there and stared at him probably for about an hour.
Which is much better.
Yeah, it was pretty cool for me.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions for some people.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Big Tom, and I'm sorry, Big Tom, that you weren't able to get your password confirmed. I am so sorry. I tried bringing him on earlier. First of all, he wants to know if you're coming to Buffalo.
Oh, there was some talk. My musical director was telling me that there was some conversation going on with some theater up in Buffalo. So I can't remember the name of it. So I'm hoping to. I hope that comes to fruition. That would be great. So like I said, I'll post about all these performances on Facebook and my website, DonnieMost.com, under the calendar section. Hopefully,
Awesome.
I'll be up in Buffalo soon.
And Jennifer Bice or BC, or I don't know, but Jennifer, do you know her?
Facebook friend. Facebook friend. Yeah.
She said Happy Days wasn't the same without you and Ron Howard.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, Ron left the same after that 7th season, same time I did. Ron wanted to direct, and I remember at the time, I think he also said to ABC, "I'll come back if you give me a guarantee of, directing a TV movie or something like that." And they wouldn't do that either for him. But yeah, that was a smart move on their part, huh?
Oh my God!
As a director, now I don't know if we should give him a chance to direct. He's kind of done okay in that department. I'd say.
Yeah, I talk about these people who don't get their moment, and it's like, and later on they're like, yeah, I got my moment anyway. So there you go.
Yeah, more than a moment. Like I don't know what the right term is, but it's exponential from that, obviously.
Yeah, whatever happened to that guy, Ron Howard? He left Happy Days, and nobody ever heard from him again.
Yeah, too bad. What are you gonna do?
Let's see. Okay, somebody else. Let's see. Yeah, Dan Litland wanted to know about Ron Howard again. Big Tom says if you do come to Buffalo, he will take you to the best chicken wing place. So
all right, cool. All right, well, I'll look forward to that.
Okay, so I have Gary Fish is waiting to come on the show, and Gary, I've tried you a couple of times to call. I tried you on FaceTime, and I tried you on Skype. I'm going to try you again on FaceTime. I hope you'll pick up this time. Let's see what happens. And no pickup.
Okay. Come on, Gary.
Come on, Gary. This is modern technology, and it's.
Yeah, you got. I think you need to iron a few of these bugs out there.
Well, there was a few bugs, but for the most part, I think we're doing okay. All right, okay. Gary. So sorry. Okay, so. All right. Well, we got most of the bugs out.
Okay.
Don, you've directed a couple of movies.
Yeah.
You did Moolah and Harley's Hill. Could you tell us about those? Those were pretty cool.
And well, my first one was a movie called The Last Sunday, and it was a pretty intense drama. 2 high school kids, a boy and a girl from totally different backgrounds, who would normally have nothing to do with each other. The boy is son of a migrant farm worker, and the girl, daughter of deeply religious and repressive parents. And but under these very heightened circumstances, they're brought together, and a relationship develops. And so it's that kind of a story. It's almost like a little Romeo and Juliet kind of story, but it's set in Central California. Great performances by Angela Bettis and Douglas Spain. And I had some other great actors in there. Kim Darby, who played the mom, and Marion Ross did a cameo role for me in that movie.
Oh, cool.
She was great. And Craig Wasson was in the film, and Bill Lucking. and Mickey Jones, who sadly passed away this year. So that it's a really good movie, and The Last Best Sunday. And then I did Moolah about 6 years later.
That was a fun movie.
Really fun movie. That was totally different comedy, sort of a dramedy, but starts off pretty comedic, and then it slowly develops into where it sucks you in. Was the intent, and you get caught up in the story and the characters. And again, great cast. Daniel Baldwin, who's hilarious in it, and William Mapother plays the lead, and he's great. Curtis Armstrong is in it, and Doug Hutchison, and Treat Williams played a great role in it, and Charlotte Ross, who's great, and Shailene Woodley, who was 13 years old at the time. It was her first film, and now she's gone on to become very big in the Divergent series, The Fault in Our Stars, The Spectacular Now. Yeah. She was in that miniseries with Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon on cable. I can't remember. It won a bunch of Grammys. So it's a great cast. And Harley's Hill I did a few years later, and that's a family film, a really sweet girl and a horse kind of movie. And so it was fun doing different things like that. And I've got a bunch of projects that I'm trying to get going that starting to get some traction on film and television. And one of them really excited about, well, several, but one that came up fairly recently, I joined forces with a producer, Ryan O'Quinn, and his company, Damascus Road Productions, and ran into a guy that I admired for many years, being a New Yorker and a baseball fan, and is the great pitcher Tommy John, and he's got an amazing story, his life and career, and so we worked out an agreement, and we're gonna for the rights to his story, and I think it'll make a fantastic movie. It really captures in his life and his career about his perseverance and overcoming incredible odds through his belief in himself and God, and an amazing story. The man has a surgery named after him, the Tommy John surgery, because he was the first pitcher to undergo this, and they said he'd never come back. His chances were like 1 in 100.
Right.
And he was actually relieved when they said 1 in 100. He had immense relief because they didn't tell him 0 out of 100.
Right.
But the fact that it was 1 in 100, he had great sense of relief and hope. And what happened after all this rehabilitation and tough road, he winds up coming back, and then a year after that, wins like 20 games.
Wow.
He goes on to win half of his victories after the surgery, 277 victories, 7th all time. But that tells you something about the guy, and there's so many stories like that, personal things that happened to him and his family. And as I was reading the books, I was so moved, and I knew that this is a great movie. So I'm excited about that project. We're in the process of developing that, getting it into a script, and then hopefully make that. And I'll be directing that, which will be...
Oh, that's great.
It'll be an amazing thing. And there's a project that I'm doing with my wife, a TV project, because Morgan, my wonderful wife, has had Parkinson's disease for 17 years.
Right.
And as part of, I guess, therapy for her, she started writing a blog about it.
Yes.
And but with a very with a humorous approach to it, and people loved it so much they said, you have to do something with this. So she and I have adapted it into a TV series format, and these two producers love it, and we're fine tuning it now and starting to go out, and I think it would be a fantastic TV series, because it's a very interesting situation to do a show about someone like that, but with the humor and Morgan has sometimes in a good way, twisted sense of humor in the best way possible. Yeah. So I think this could be great. So those are the things. And on the acting side, I just did several films that are so different
Yeah.
from each other, and the characters that I play are so different that, and I'm really excited about it. One of them's called MBF, Man's Best Friend, and I play sort of a broken down, recovering alcoholic defense attorney who winds up defending a wounded vet, and in a case that becomes pretty big, and it's a chance for his redemption. And so it's a pretty dramatic film, and really beautifully written by DJ Perry, directed by Anthony Hornis. They were great people to work with, and I'm really excited about that project as an actor. And then I went on shortly after that to do a film where I play a polygamist, and a pretty bad guy, and it's about that whole story where Warren Jeffs is in jail, and it's about that whole situation and the victims, and so I'm really looking forward for that to come out. Probably these films will come out next in the spring, and I'm really excited about that one as well. And then I also did a pilot, a TV pilot called Puckheads, which is about a minor league hockey team, and I play the owner. And great cast. It's kind of like a Bull Durham for minor league hockey, and beautifully written and funny, colorful, and so I'm really glad that I'm getting a chance. I think now it's opening up more and more because I'm certainly not a teenager anymore, and
right.
And it's a different time. So a lot of balls in the air,
Yeah. What do you think? You think we'll ever get Take Two on the air?
Yes, Take Two would be something that should be on the air, and I'll take the time to mention that David was the exec producer, came to myself and Anson Williams with a project called Take Two. Brilliant idea, an anthology series where I don't want to say too much about it, David, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
But
it was a little ahead of its time, I think, when we came up with it. But now
it was ahead of its time. People were worried about an anthology, but it'd be great now. But Anson and I starred in it, 2-character piece for the most part, and then Anson directed that, and it was a pilot, so to speak. I'll Take Two. You could probably see some of it on YouTube, I think, right,
yeah,
David?
There's a little bit on YouTube, and there's a little bit on Vimeo.
Yeah, and it was great script by Fred Stropel. And
Fred Stropel is amazing. He's won a couple of awards since then, and he's
great
had some
writer.
off-Broadway stuff.
Great writer, and this script was phenomenal, and what a fun thing for Anson and I to do. Play very different characters than people remember us.
Yep.
Totally different than Happy Days, and so it was a brilliant idea by you, David, and it does deserve to be done. So hopefully we'll get that one going.
We'll get there. We'll do a couple more of the. We'll end up doing it just here, and I'll just have the 2 actors on the split screen. We'll do it. We'll do it that way.
It'll be different.
But you got what's really interesting, and we talk about you and Anson, and I'm thinking about. I mean, you and your Happy Days colleagues are really, over the years, many of you kept in touch to a great extent. I mean, here you are with Mary and Aaron, who sadly passed several years ago. Talk about your relationship. People come onto a show and then they just go off and have their lives, but Happy Days was a little bit different, wasn't it, in terms of keeping in touch?
Yeah, that's true, and it sounds like a cliche. People say, "Oh, we were like family" and all that, but in this case, it was very true, very accurate. We did become family, and we genuinely cared for each other, grew to love each other, and loved working with each other.
Why do you think that was?
It was a fortuitous blend of personalities that you have to give credit to Gary Marshall and Tom Miller and Ed Milkus, who were the exec producers, and some of the execs at Paramount at the time, like Michael Eisner, making these decisions, because they put together a group of people that clicked on all levels, all cylinders,
right?
Personally and professionally. So it's lightning in a bottle, and we got along so well. And Jerry Paris was and Gary had a lot to do with that as our mentors. You know, they set a tone, and they've been through this, and they kept us in our place. And I think Ron Howard, who was already a star and had been in the business all those years, you know, he set a tone that how could we act bigger than we should if Ron isn't. And Ron was way bigger than us, and he was as low key and unassuming as anybody. So I think we had great role models, and you know, and Tom and Marion were so great to work with. Erin was, it's so sad, you know, she got ill and passed away. She was 13 when we started doing this show. But you know, just an incredible experience, and I'm very thankful and feel very fortunate that I got to work with these incredible people.
Don, I feel very fortunate that I got to work with you and that I got to see you here today. I know you have other things to do. For the folks who called in, thank you so much for calling in today. For the folks who tried to call in and couldn't make it, shoot me an email. We'll talk about it. We'll try to get you on again in the future. And you know, I had a great time, and I hope you did too, Don. It was just really so much fun having you on the show today.
Oh, it was a lot of fun for me too, and always good to talk with you, and then getting to meet.
I think I lost you, Don.
Oh no, I'm still
why.
here. You get me back?
I got you back. Yeah.
All right. I was saying, always great to talk to you, and it was really fun for me to get to meet some of the people, sort of, you know, live like we did, and get to talk to them one-on-one like that. That was you don't get to do that. And that's very, very cool. I like that.
Well, hopefully you'll come back on, and we'll get some more callers. And actually, in a few weeks, we're gonna have a buddy of yours on the show, Anson Williams, will be coming to answer the questions of our audience, and well, maybe you'll call in and talk to him.
Yeah. Although Anson and I just messaged each other yesterday, and we're going to get together pretty soon. So,
well, say hi to him for me.
I
Don,
sure will.
Thank you so much, and we will see you soon. And next week, we will have another guest, and keep a lookout for who we're going to have on next week on Ask Them Yourself. I'm David Levin, and we'll see you next time.
All right. You still hear me, David?
Yep. Hold on.